Yo, coming to you live from World Championship in San Jose. Welcome to the Living Legends podcast.
Sweet, let's just crack on then, shall we? Welcome back to the Living Legends podcast. I'm your host for today. My name's Az from Goarin Gaming, and with me, as always, is some of my best friends in Flesh and Blood, and we've got Kel, first of all. How's it going?
Hello. I'm doing very well today. We're going to be talking about some stuff that is very near and dear to me, so I'm excited for this episode. So, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And then we've got Bill over there, the king of the buzzsaw trap. God damn it.
I feel there's a story. Oh, no, wait. I saw the tweet. I saw your tweet about buzzsaw trap, so I know.
Oh, it was so savage, man.
Yeah, that was some pretty good stuff. But yes, I am Bill from the Spike Feeders. Az and I have been doing weekly Azalea Gauntlet CC games. They've been quite fun. The last time we found out, because I was playing Riptide, just how good Buzzsaw Trap is against somebody who decides to play, I think it was like 3 or 4 buffs on a single arrow.
Yeah.
Pretty good response.
Oh, that was vile.
But so Riptide, I won't talk too much about this, but Riptide's legendary traps, specifically Buzzsaw and Collapsing Trap, are disgusting against certain
They really
things.
are.
I played against Steven in the Outsiders Skirmish gauntlet that Az and Bill were actually on as well. And when I say Steven, I mean DM Armada. And he was playing Riptide, and I was playing Katsu, and everything in my deck has Go again. So Collapsing Trap always just goozles me, like no matter what. So the first time I got absolutely got by it, and I kept that game as one of the ones in the thing. So I played it. I'm like, I'm sure the order doesn't matter. I'll attack with this card, and he's like Collapsing Trap. I had 1 card left in my hand that I was gonna pitch to attack with like my Kadachis and stuff. And then he just collapsing trapped me, and I had to discard that card and then draw 1 less, and 1 less than 1 is 0, so I drew 0 cards.
Wow.
And so the next time we played with like the no budget versions, I always had to think, I'm like, does he have collapsing trap? You have to play around it. It will destroy you. So.
And that's exactly what happened. I mean, we'll go into this week in FAB, off the back of this, because that's what we were doing this week. But yeah, as you say, it's like they are very niche, the traps, but when they hurt you, they really hurt you. And there was a point there when I was playing against Riptide, and I was like, right, here's the bloody buzzsaw trap all over again. I've definitely got a most hated card in Outsiders, and that's probably what it is, Buzzsaw Trap.
I think Dorinthia with these players would probably agree with you. But like,
Dorinthia, that's right. Shuts them down.
It just dunks her, like absolutely dunks her, because it blocks for 3 as well. So it just blocks Dawnblade, period. Like it's just like, no more, none of that. You don't get no buffs and no buffs.
Doesn't even get counter buffs either.
No, like no buffs.
Oh, God.
And because of that, it removes the counters at the end of the turn. So it's like, even if they had some really good turns and got like 2 counters on it, and they're like, oh, I'm going to win. Look at my Dawnblade. A single trap just hoses it entirely.
Yeah, it's kind of unreal.
Yeah.
Like...
Because I was asking like Bill when we were playing, I was thinking, is there any cards that actually can recur that? But there isn't anything that gets D-reacts or anything back, is there? Because like Remembrance is action cards, Cadaverous Contraband is action cards. There's nothing at the moment printed that says get back any card, like a Eternal Witness type effect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
nothing that does that.
As far as I'm aware, thankfully not.
No.
The legendary traps are one-ofs, and they are one-ofs.
Yeah, there's instance too. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to get reactions or instance. Yeah, I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a pretty cool story for this week's in FAB. Finally realizing some power that Riptide has in his specializations. What about everybody else? Anybody else been up to much this week in their Flesh and Blood? Anything?
I mean, do you want to go first?
No, you can go. It's all good.
Okay. Well, I won't fight you over that. I've been forcing myself to, and like forcing myself is such an intense word usage for this sort of thing, but I've been trying to make it a point to play more Flesh and Blood for fun instead of just for content.
Yeah.
Because I did definitely sort of slip into that for a little while. But the main thing that I tried to do for that was just sign up for all of the skirmishes that we had locally, because we have 3 LGSs that were each holding a skirmish. And tomorrow, actually, as of we're recording this on Friday the 21st. Tomorrow is the last of 3, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I've been doing reasonably well. I hit top 8 in the first one, top 4 in the second one.
Nice.
And obviously tomorrow's hasn't happened yet, but yeah, then this past Monday as well. I don't remember if I had mentioned this. I think I did, but I decided to play in the Armory that happens on Mondays, and I brought Chain, and I just got the cleanest 4-0 that I've ever gotten in my entire life.
Chain's good. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's especially good when all of your blood debt gets banished from your shackles. You get like 2 blood debt cards a turn. You just like kind of can't lose. It's crazy.
Yeah.
For the skirmishes, did you play, was it limited or blitz? Because I know LGSs could choose between the 2.
Both of them were blitz, and I played Ira both times.
Nice.
Ira is a deck that I had a lot of experience with like a couple years ago, and I just kind of stopped playing it for whatever reason. And so bringing it back for skirmishes, it's felt really strong into everything except for Icelander.
That's fair.
Icelander sucks to play against for me specifically. But every non-wizard matchup, I actually have not lost a game against anybody that was not a wizard with Ira so far. So
Wow.
it's kind of cool.
Nice
Yeah.
record.
I mean, I feel you. Icelander is like the bane of most of my blitz. Well, wizard in general is like the bane of most of my blitz decks. So
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah, gotcha.
I don't know how many times I've actually won with my Lexi deck against like Kano. Icelander's a little bit easier, but Kano just kills me just out of nothing. So
I'm because this isn't going to go up until the Wednesday after. I can even say my plan for tomorrow, after playing 2 skirmishes with Ira, I'm intending to draw my cards on the floor apparently, but play Prism instead to try to hopefully prey on the wizards.
Nice.
And then
watch
the
now,
brutes.
Now you get matched against all the brutes and guardians. It's gonna happen. We'll
It's gonna be sweet.
We'll tune back in next episode to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will.
because
we will just have to see.
Because spectral shields prevent damage as well, do they, from wizards?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they prevent any damage, don't they? Yeah, it's been so long since I looked at Prism cards, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm specifically not going to be trying out my my aggro version. I'm going to be playing like the real Prism Blitz deck.
Okay.
Because you just run like 100 yellows and then Arcane Barrier 4, and you're just like,
dirty
okay, try it.
Spectra user. Dirty Spectra user. He's got like these auras and it's all BS probably.
Yeah, it's gonna be sweet.
Yeah.
He's really putting a spike in his spike feeders now, isn't he? Taking Prism to a bloody wizard saturated market.
You're gonna run the library?
I don't think I will.
Oh.
It would be really funny though.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
No one's like running yellows unless you're playing against like a random, I don't know, maybe assassin or ranger because they run codexes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But or other prisms. But nobody's played Prism, and we have like 4 Icelanders that keep showing up to these skirmishes. So
God. Nice.
Yeah.
What about you, Cal?
That's what I've been up to.
Anything? Yeah, anything for you? Or anything coming up soon?
Yeah, so I finished editing the last of the Outsiders skirmish season gauntlet videos, which is me versus Bill. I was playing Benji, Bill was playing Arachne, and it was a really fun series. Took a lot of time. Each video took me so long to make and edit, and we had some like troubles. Long story short, it was great. And I'd be happy to work with LSS on more projects in the future. So seems like people had pretty good reception to all of them. I've been tuning into reading the comments and stuff. So
nice.
Pretty good. And I actually might take some of that and do my own gameplay video or more of my own gameplay videos in the future. It's been a while since I've done like an edited one. I usually go for live streaming gameplay because it's just easier. It's just so much easier.
Yeah, that's it.
But I don't know. Maybe I'll do some more edited ones in the future if people are into that. And finished my Uzuri deck, my Uzuri CC deck. I'm going to be playing actually tomorrow against Ian live stream. I don't know what he's playing, but he mentioned Azalea, and he always has brute deck, so I'm going to be guessing either Azalea and or some combination of some brutes.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that. Finished building my Arachne Solitary Confinement Blitz deck. Haven't tested it much, but I think it's really good. And solid. It's just aggro, man. You're just like punching them real hard. And what else? That's been it mostly for the non-content side of stuff for my channel at least. But just building some decks. Kind of echoing what Bill said. I want to play more Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, too right.
Yeah, just like doesn't have to be content. I just want to play some more. I'm really excited to finally just start digging into Uzuri. My list is quite a bit different than the ones that have been showing up in the top 8s of the recent events. I did see one list posted on Twitter that mine is not an entirely red line deck. Mine does not immediately die to wizard like all these other ones do. Like if I get masked against Icelander, I think I can do okay because I actually run a decent amount of blues. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, some of the other lists have been really red line heavy, haven't they? And not really using the spider's bite, pitching a blue and then doing the thing afterwards. It's more like pure red, like you said.
Yep.
Which is why they probably fold to wizard.
Oh yeah, they get pretty wrecked by Icelander. The good thing is, like those decks, they typically only want to do like one action anyway. Maybe sometimes two. So like even if they have like one frostbite, it's not that bad. But if they get a couple, it can be pretty rough. But they also like are just gonna eat the damage. That's the worst part. Is like they're just gonna eat the arcane and it's gonna hurt.
Just gonna eat it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Every time I see one of the lists pop up, I go check to see if they have Spreading Plague, and then if they do, I'm like, oh, you're smart. I'm not saying the ones that aren't running Spreading Plague aren't smart, but I like Spreading Plague, and I think it is very undervalued right now.
I think it is as well. And again, you know, you saw. I think you saw this in the first skirmish videos when you blew me out with it.
You got four blood.
Four.
Yeah.
And that's just a trap that you fall into against assassin. Is you want to overblock to prevent these things from happening, and yet you get punished for doing so. And it's just like, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, the list that I've seen online that I like the most, that isn't the one that I'm going to be playing around with, is I saw it on Twitter. It was like Pheno Black's list, and he's actually running Surgical Extraction and Spreading Plague, which is not what Sam Dando was running.
No.
He wasn't running either of those, and I like both of those cards. I think they're both very, very good. And notably, they do not pitch for red. They pitch for more than that. So you can also use them to attack with your daggers.
Yeah.
Could
even be worth looking at Regicide again as well. That's a blue, isn't it?
Well, Regicide's Arachne specialization.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah. Silly me.
I mean, technically, Solitary Confinement can run it. It's Arachne's only specialization. I felt Arachne got done a little dirty, by the way, in Outsiders with not getting a new specialization. Come on, like Riptide got 3. Come on, we just talked about it. Riptide has 3 legendary specializations. Arachne still has 1. Like, come on, you couldn't give him another one? Like,
just to rub salt in the wound, he's actually got a quiver as well, which is also a specialization.
Oh, that's true. 4.
So he's got 4, and Arachne has nothing.
Arachne has Regicide that kills them if it whips. I like Regicide.
Kill somebody, that's for sure.
Yeah, someone's gonna die. I think Riptide's a really cool, flavorful card, but I wish Arachne got something new
Something else.
in
Yeah.
Outsiders. And I'm kind of
Wow.
shifting my Arachne deck, which is Blitz from Huntsman to Solitary, I think. Still running a lot of some of the contract cards, but just the go wide aggro speaks more to me than the fatigue.
Oh, definitely.
Fatigue
Yeah,
kind
pure
of stuff.
fisticuffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I really like Uzuri CC, but it's more of a mid-rangey kind of thing that's going on. It's not exactly aggro, it's not exactly fatigue. It's kind of like this middle ground where you want to get these really good on hit effects.
Nip and tuck, and taking cards away and trying to get advantage, isn't it? Essentially, the mid-range style thing.
Yeah, I think the idea is like you want to put the fear into your opponent that every stealth card has the potential to be a really nasty on hit effect that's just waiting in your hand. And I put in all of the cards that like take cards out of your opponent's hand. So like surgicals, shakedowns. I'm not running a ton of pummels. I'm only running 2 in my list. Like literally 2, like 1 red and 1 blue. And I think it's just because it's hard to pay for them while also doing other stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's probably enough. There's probably enough cards that say when it hits discard now, like cut down to size and other stuff as well, like CNC destroys arsenals,
CNC
stuff
good,
that actually takes cards away when it hits. Essentially,
there's a bunch. And then I really love Death Touch. Both red and yellow Death Touch are both really sweet. Even blue Death Touch isn't bad, but I'm only running reds and yellows.
Yeah, because the blue one can still turn into either 6 damage if you give a blood rot, or it can take away a card in the form of their arsenal, etc. So
I like that it still attacks for 4, so it still has a good break point. So if your opponent only blocked with one card from hand on your stealth card, then you can still do it and like get a good hit. But what makes Death Touch so good is that it's really versatile. So like you can pick and choose the best thing for the scenario. The real card in the deck that I'm not 100% sure on is Codex of Bloodrot, which I love, and I think people are very much undervaluing it and underrating it, but I don't know if it's good specifically in my Uzuri deck. I think it's really good in aggro decks. So I think it's really good in like Arachne Solitary Confinement. I think it's really good in Lexi, like No Fuse Lexi, because it does
Really?
because it does similar things to Frailty, right? Because everyone's like, oh, Frailty takes a card out of your opponent's hand, yada yada yada, and you get a card back. Well, Bloodrot also takes a card out of your opponent's hand and jams it into their arsenal, right? And it also gives them a Bloodrot, and you also get a Ponder token. So I think in like aggro decks, specifically for Blitz, once again, I'm not sure for CC, but I think it's very, very good. And in fact, in my Lexi list, I think I might like it more than Frailty, just because like when Frailty puts a arrow back in my thing, I don't get the bonuses from my bow. Like I can't give it go again from Voltaire or something. So it literally has to be the last thing that I do, and like
I see.
I'm getting
it
back
goes in
like
face up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can't Lexi it. Yeah,
and it doesn't get the buff from so like it makes it so it's hard to get back something like Bolt and Shot, for example, because it won't get pumped up from Voltaire.
No.
I still like it. Like I'm still running it in my deck, but actually like I think I like to see Bloodrot in my hand more, to just rip a card out of their hand and then shoot them with a bunch of arrows, and then they also have a Bloodrot. So if they choose to block, then they're going to have less cards in their hand, and they're going to take damage from the Bloodrot. And then I still get the Ponder, which is super good with Lexi in particular, because getting an Arsenal card like an Ice card and then flipping it up at the start of your next turn to give them a Frostbite or to give something go again if it's Lightning is just super good.
I think Ponder in general has really cranked the Rangers up. Sorry, what was you going to say?
Oh yeah.
One more thing about Bloodrot, Codex of Bloodrot with Lexi in particular, is so good because it lets you put any card from your hand face down into your arsenal, kind of like a reload, right? But what makes that really good is, unlike Frailty, which only does attack actions, right? I'm pretty sure that's right. Frailty only does like attack actions.
Attack actions from your graveyard into your arsenal face up. Yeah.
So Blood Rat puts anything. So you can put any of your cantrips, and the cantrips are cards like Electrify, and there's a couple. There's 2 like ice ones that I use as well. Like is it Permafrost? There's 2 like ice ones where like
Polar Blast.
Polar Blast. Yeah.
Polar Blast. That's it.
Any of the ones that if you play from Arsenal, you get a draw card. Those are the cantrips, and I run a bunch of them in my Lexi deck. So why Blood Rot is so good is you can play Blood Rot, put one of those face down into your arsenal, activate Lexi to turn it face up, get that bonus, either the Frostbite or the free go again, and then play it from arsenal, draw a card, and then continue on. So it basically like replaces itself. You'll have some resources floating. It's just Blood Rot is very undervalued in my opinion, specifically for these decks.
That sounds sweet.
Yeah. It's super good.
I think Joshua Scott would be proud of that interaction.
It's so good. And then
nice.
Maybe Inertia will get into a deck sometime outside of the Bobble Dunk meme deck. So
which you can see on Red Zone Rogue right now.
Bobble Dunk. We talked about it first here though.
That's true.
Yeah.
They got the idea from here. So anyway, that's
I mean, I'll mention a few things before we go onto our main topic. Our main topic is going to be casual and social fab. So a lot of the sort of we were using casual as a term quite a bit before, but then you said social, and I think that makes a lot more sense. But we're going to speak about casual and social because there's differences. But some of the things that I was doing this week, I finally got out the first episode of the Ultimate Pit Night series, which sort of leans into casual and social. So that took a long time to do. It's got good reception so far. I think it's really, really good. Really proud of it. And obviously we've got a lot more episodes coming up, which include Kel as well. The next one I'm going to be editing is going to be including Kel.
I'm a heel.
Were you playing Arachne in that game?
I was playing Arachne, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good one that's coming up. That's going to be edited, probably released late May. But I've been doing a lot of organising for other pods in that series as well, and I've got about 7 or 8 lined up now. So it's turning out really well. The scheduling's doing really well, and I want to give a shout out to one that I'm really looking forward to doing, because all of the people that are playing are going to be in cosplay when they play.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we're going to shout out Brown Vixen 7. So she's done both Azalea and Dromai before.
I know her.
Yeah. So she's done some really good cosplays. Ira of Mysteria, so Valera.
Oh yeah.
Who I met at Lille. So I did a little video with her when I was talking to her at Lille. And then Max Ferocity, who does Dash.
Yeah, she won my Trans Lifeline giveaway.
That's right.
That LSS tossed in. Well, she won the lore book that LSS tossed in for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's got the actual pistol that lights up, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. That looks really good. Yeah. So I've said that I'm going to try and wing together some rubbish cosplay.
Oh, dude.
But I don't know what to do with it.
Dude, okay. I don't know how hard this would be, but it'd be so impossible to actually record because there's no way anyone can hear you. But do the dude from Death Touch and get like a Plague Doctor mask and like a hood, and you'll just the Dr. Mortimer, the Plague Doctor one from Back Alley Breakline.
Yeah, because that could be fairly easy to do, but still people know what it is because that's a good idea actually. Yeah. I'll probably be playing some sort of ranger. It depends what Brown Vixen wants to play, because I think she's going to be doing an Azalea cosplay in that one. Nice. So we'll see. But yeah, just thought I'd shout that out because it's been going really well, the scheduling. But yeah, so it rolls into our topic for today, and that's casual and social fab. Now, there's a few sort of questions and sort of thought-provoking ideas that I've came up with to discuss today. But it all leans on the article which came out recently, which you can also see a video on your channel right now about the keeping it casual.
Yes. It's weird because the video's coming out like literally right after this podcast is done recording.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't know what I'm going to call it. I think I'm calling it something along the lines of "This is important." I think that's what I'm calling the video. But
Yeah.
it's important. I
It is very important.
100% believe that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this came out when we're recording this. This came out about 5 days ago. It doesn't have an author on there. It just says from Legend Story Studios. But I think this is interesting because we had an article about FAB 2.0. Do you remember that article that said, like one of the points on there was FAB is about more than competitive play.
Yep.
And it's like we were saying maybe before the podcast, they have noticed these things are going to happen, but not to the extent that we would have liked. You know, they've grown so massively that things have probably just, they're a year ahead and they don't even realize it. It's just they've got a lot of stuff's come up so quickly, growing pains, that they haven't been able to implement it until now, essentially. But yeah, a little bit of the article here. The nail-biting competition of Flesh and Blood is an exciting adventure that draws people in from all corners of the globe, but the world of Wraith has so much more to explore. So for many players, it's not about grueling battles of Pro Tour, but about catching up with mates to crack some packs and getting together for a wild bout of ultimate pit fight. And that's what I think we encapsulate as well, is just the sort of vibe of just getting together with people and just having fun with this game, rather than trying to be, you know, proper sweaty, except unless you're playing, of course, Buzzsaw Trap.
Yeah, who would do that? Who would do that? That's crazy.
Yeah. Some kind of monster.
You monster!
So they actually released a new article that's dated today, which probably would have been yesterday because New Zealand is in the future, called Casual Play and Armory Kit Guidance. And we can talk about this a little bit later after we talk about this, but it shows that they're doing actionable things regarding casual play that they talk about in the article that Az is going to kind of go over. So they actually go over like what your local game store can do to support the things that they're going to talk about. So
yeah,
there's
a few things. That's one of them. But there's a few other bits of content that have also come out as well, which are very, very important to this whole thing. And one of them is one of them that you was involved with.
Oh yeah,
Kel.
Yeah, that yeah, it's the ultimate pit fight shuffle up and play video from Sterling Community College, and I don't know how much I want to say regarding stuff, but I'll just say it's a long time coming. That's something we had been planning for quite a while. Basically, ever since Shuffle Up and Play started, basically, there have been talks about doing a Flesh and Blood one, and I genuinely think it's a very, very fun video. I think it is the perfect video to show people who might be interested in Flesh and Blood, to show them that it can be played in a very fun and social environment. It's not a great video to learn to play Flesh and Blood, but it's a good video to get people hyped about the idea of playing Flesh and Blood. And I think it's good for that. And also Prof made a video about how to play like Ultimate Pit Fight in general.
Yeah. I think we could touch on this as well, because I also did a video about what a cool product would potentially look like. And I think Ultimate Pit Fight and just this sort of, it serves as like a gateway into the game to a certain degree, because if you have someone that's experienced and you have three people that aren't, that one person can sit at the table and be like, right, this is how you do this, this is how you do this. And then they can then, you know, get that sort of board game cooperative experience, but not having to be one-on-one with someone, you know, and be cutthroat. You can have that sort of social thing. And that in itself is a conduit to maybe giving them the confidence to then play 1v1 or go to their armory, etc. There still needs to be developments on that, which we'll get into, because there's a load of points on here. But I think social multiplayer games are a good way to get people that might not be confident to get into this game, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And it's just, in general, it's just more fun to play with your friends, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's just because I don't care about winning all that much, but like I just love playing like Ultimate Pitfall. I like playing with my friends, and I don't care if I die, if I get knocked out. The only times I do is if I get knocked out super early, and then I just sit there while everyone else is having fun for like an hour and a half or something. That's the only time where it feels bad.
Yeah.
But like,
The beauty of knockout games, eh?
yeah. But
Yeah.
I agree with what Anne says for sure.
Yeah.
It's always good playing with your friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll just finish off this article before we go into the actual points that I've raised here. But James White's going to be playing UPF as well, apparently, at the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
No idea what hero he's going to be playing. Like we know he likes Kano, but like I can't think of a better way to paint a big red X on your forehead than playing Kano in UPF. That's just like saying,
Oh, yeah.
"Hey, kill me first, everyone."
Kill me now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice to see that obviously the creator of the game is down and getting dirty in the pits with everybody else, just playing some social flesh and blood, which is great to see that as well.
Yeah.
But and we got our good friend Ian who wrote an article as well. So fair play to Ian for writing that. Embracing RNG, and that's the most casual and social you can possibly get. Just throwing dice to determine the outcome of your success.
It's a good article. I'm not just saying that because Ian's a good friend, but it's a great article, and I think it really helps shine how Flesh and Blood can just be like really fun. I highly recommend reading it, and it's a very Ian article. It's a very Ian article. And Ian's a dude who's been playing card games like forever, like for a very, very long time. And I think it shows in the article.
Yeah,
so.
I mean this is actually a point I did not have on here, so it'd be interesting to see where this goes. But Flesh and Blood is it's not a game known for its variance, is it? It's known for its consistency, the fact that every card has a mode. Do you think that variance is a good thing? Should we have more of it? Because it does, as you say, RNG creates these sort of stand-up moments where you're like, oh, I can't believe you just top-decked that. Oh, well done. You rolled dice for this. Variance is one of those things that's a bit lost in the aether at the moment of Flesh and Blood because everyone is so hyper-consistent and so hyper-competitive. Do you think more variance could be a thing?
I'm curious to hear Bill's answer. I have a very opinionated response to this, but I'm very curious to hear Bill's.
Let's go.
I do find it interesting, just the concept of RNG in Flesh and Blood, because there's a very doomerist take that you can look at and be like, well, Hearthstone is a game that has decided to go all in on RNG, and I'm not going to make any actual real comment on that, but that would be like the parallel in my mind. Outside of that, though, we do have some amount of RNG in Flesh and Blood already, and it does create those sort of stand-up oh my god moments like you were talking about, because when you roll a 5 or a 6 and you're attacking with KO, whoo,
yes, exactly. There's no other feeling like it.
Yeah, so I do think that obviously there is already an undercurrent of RNG with Brute. It is like something that they have access to, but it's not a main part of their kit. Although you could kind of argue that Intimidate does introduce RNG, and I think that would be a correct argument. By the way, I think that's that's just accurate. But yeah, it depends on how much more you kind of want that to pervade the remainder of the Flesh and Blood space. Like it is sort of Brute's thing to have random effects, random discard, random intimidate, random dice rolls, whatever. So either expanding on that within its own space or creating another class that has RNG could be interesting. It just depends on whether or not they want to make it like really feast or famine, or another sort of a kind of a reference to Hearthstone in RNG that I think is pretty medium in terms of its impact is like flip a coin. I guess that would be closer to Pokemon because now we're talking about coin flips. But like deal 2 damage or flip a coin. If it's heads, deal 3, like that sort of thing. Like sort of small implementations of RNG, I think feel less important, but are that tend towards more consistent, like you're saying.
Yeah.
I feel like I've said a lot of words, but not anything concrete. But anyway, my personal feeling about it is we do have a lot of RNG with specifically KO, and that can either feel really good or really bad depending on what you roll and also what side of the table you're on.
Yeah.
So
Another thing as well about
the amount is interesting. Unless they make it sort of more like less rangy, you know.
Yeah, it's about so what you said there about feeling good and feeling bad, right? One comparison you can make to another card game is Magic, right? If you don't have any lands, you can't play. Nothing has value because you can't play anything because you have no lands. But that allows those moments, you know, for someone who's maybe like a lesser player to win a game because someone gets land screwed, and then they have like a tale of David versus Goliath. They won because they didn't have the lands or whatever, and that's just down to absolute variance. But I don't think Flesh and Blood can have those tales because everyone's so consistent. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I used to drink the Kool-Aid, as you would say, and believed that, because I used to listen to Mark Rosewater's podcast quite a bit, and he talked about that. But I personally these days don't think one person being pretty happy and winning against the world's best player outweighs all of the people who just don't get to play the game. I think it's way worse to have non-games than one person happen to win against a skilled player. I think the feel bads outweigh like the tiny goods. So and to that, I would like to extend that Bill kind of got the soul read on me, and I was going to mention Hearthstone specifically because I feel that Flesh and Blood. I feel like there's a range of randomness that I think is acceptable, and I'm not just talking about like competitively acceptable. I'm talking about in ways where it doesn't feel bad, because I think at the end of the day, we're playing games, and games should, in my opinion, inherently be fun. That's what a game should be, and I think if you're doing things that make the game not fun, you're going against like just the core tenet of the medium. And so, like for example, Hearthstone. I used to play competitive Hearthstone quite a bit actually back in the early days. I was like one of the top 100 ranked players in the United States. I played Tempo Rogue. Of course I did.
Of course he did.
And I stopped playing when I got really frustrated and not fun, and the game wasn't fun because I wouldn't hit the random RNG numbers that I would need to win. And I had a moment of introspection. And I'm like, I'm not having fun. I should just not play this anymore. And I haven't played Hearthstone. Well, that's not entirely true. I go back and play some of the single player stuff. I think that's kind of fun. But I haven't played competitive Hearthstone since then. And one of the big ones was like Dr. Boom. If you know Hearthstone, there's Dr. Boom. And sometimes Dr. Boom will just hit you in the face for like a 1 damage and it's fine. And then other times he wipes your entire board and you just die. Like the game's just over because you lost a bunch of RNG rolls. And I'm like,
so I don't know. I don't want to get too much into Hearthstone, but why is that RNG? Why does that happen?
Dr. Boom makes boom bots, and when the boom bots die, they will randomly hit a random target on the opposing field for a random amount of damage. So there's multiple dice rolls that go into this random target, and then a range of 1 to 4 damage, which 4 is generally decent enough to kill a lot of things. And so it could do like, just 1 damage to your opponent's face, who cares? Or it can do like 4 damage to your opponent's face, 4 damage to your opponent's face, they're dead, or like wipe your board or something. Like,
that is very random.
It's a huge dice roll. And it was a meta card. Everyone played it because it's a generic card. You can put it in any deck, and it was good. So like everyone plays Dr. Boom at the time. Long time ago. So like that kind of randomness is not good in my opinion. It might be fun for the person playing Dr. Boom, but
there's something to be said about randomness that can put you in a more advantageous position versus randomness that negates every decision that's happened up until that point in the game.
Yeah.
And I feel like Hearthstone has a lot of that kind of randomness, and I feel like the randomness we have in Flesh and Blood, and even just that we're discussing right now, is more like it puts you in a spot where if the roll ends up in your favor, then you don't just outright win the game most of the time, but it puts you in a better spot, and it doesn't, like I say, negate the entire game up to that point.
What I really like about Flesh and Blood's current randomness is that in almost every circumstance, it's your own damn fault. So like it's your fault that the random thing happened. Like, so Scabskin Leathers, it was your choice to roll the Scabskins. If you got the one, it's your fault. You didn't have to roll it. Same is true for stuff like Crazy Brew, right? If you whiff on the Crazy Brew, it's your fault. And I say this as someone who has died on camera to his own Crazy Brew. So like
best way to go.
That's what I like about the Flesh and Blood randomness, is that without, except for KO is like, I still think KO's fun, but KO does have the high roll thing where sometimes you're just like, haha, I'm attacking for 18 now. Eat it, nerd.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
like
definitely an extreme case.
yeah. They're like, Wrecker Romp Red, roll a 6. Now you're getting attacked for 16. Have fun.
Savage.
So and honestly, I think this is to like catch people off at the pass. Card games have inherent randomness just by being card games, because you draw random cards from the top of your deck. So it does have a degree of randomness. I will agree with what Az said. The Flesh and Blood has less randomness than other games, but I think it goes more towards modern game design than Magic, which is like 30 years old or whatever. Because like most modern games I can think of that are good and fun don't have random resource mechanics. Like they don't have resources as separate cards in your deck. I think that is just inherently not good game design in 2023. Where if you example would be another game that I really like, Grand Archive, similar to Flesh and Blood in that every card you can use as a resource. Not a new thing. The WoW TCG did it. The way that Grand Archive does it's pretty unique, but closer to the old WoW TCG, where you put any card face down as like a resource. I think a little bit of randomness is fun. I think it can be more fun in casual and social formats. And so this is
that's a fantastic segue as well, because when you play, as we were discussing earlier, multiplayer, the sheer fact you've got 3 other people sat around you adds so much variance to the game, because you can then be attacked from your left and your right and all this sort of thing. So that sort of variance, by adding more players to it, is just makes it more fun as well, in that social environment.
And
so
like variance doesn't have to mean random either. So like a card like this, the content creator card that the content creators got, the good deeds don't go unnoticed, adds variance, but without being random, because the person who plays it gets to choose who gets the things, right? And there still is variance on who gets what, right? If you get the life or the resource or the pump or whatever, but I mean that's pretty good, because it's like controlled. Like you can, it's weird to say controlled variance, but it is.
So I think like Ultimate Pit Fight multiplayer formats, whatever they tend to be, I think they're sort of pinnacles of variance to a certain degree. And what do we think the sort of, we might have touched on this already actually, but what do you think the pros are of having more focus on Ultimate Pit Fight and multiplayer and social formats and PvE and all that sort of thing? What's the sort of knock-on effect to where that helps grow the game, do we think, for that sort of thing?
I'd like to bring up a comment made maybe many episodes ago about a couple who showed up at their local armory bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they got absolutely dumpstered.
Yeah.
Like repeatedly, to the point where the commenter, I don't know if they're still watching. Hello, if you are, but like she said, like her husband just kind of like was so deflated that he just didn't want to play anymore. And I think, I mean, that could still happen. You can just still show up and get wrecked, but they are making it so that, and this is kind of go into the article that I mentioned a little bit earlier about casual play and Armory kit guidance. They're actually giving you LGS's Armory kit support for casual, quote, casual formats. And the Armory kit, the way that prizes are distributed are different, right? So instead of like the person who comes in and spikes the event and just crushes everyone with their net deck or whatever, necessarily won't get the best prize. And I really like that, because like someone who goes to the event and goes 0-3 could still get like the cold foil hero, for example. And they might have, they can maybe internalize that, take it as a learning experience, and then walk away with a nice little card, which I think is really good. You want to give reasons.
Same.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like the same. It's like the same as like you've got a prize for winning, but you've also got, on the other hand, you've got a prize for participating. So the spikes won't go to a event which is a participation prize, because they'd rather go to the one where they know they can win the big prize, essentially.
Yeah.
So that is a good way of doing it. Yeah, I haven't read the article yet, so thanks for bringing it up. I didn't see it until just now.
It's a pretty chunky article, and it's not like super clear. It was in the retailer news section, so it wasn't in like the general article section. This is an article specifically for retailers, but I think it's really important because it gives guidelines for LGSs to do this kind of stuff, and I think it's the best way to honestly grow a budding Flesh and Blood community. Because I can if you want me to outline it quickly, I can. I don't want to.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't want to spend too much time on it, but
yeah.
So for example, so Armory kit guidance, the prizes. So it says from now on, stores may run up to 2 Armory events per month as casual play events, awarding the Cold Foil promo card as a random prize draw rather than for first place. Obviously, you need to make it clear whether or not your event is going to be casual play or competitive, so people know what they're signing up for.
Yeah.
And then in addition to the main Flesh and Blood formats, the casual play Armor events can be run using additional formats. So you can run it using Ultimate Pit Fight, Commoner, Blitz Pre-Constructed, which I think is brilliant, or Shapeshifter Sealed. And I think all 4 of these make it so that they're going to be much more fun. So you're literally not running into Pro Tour winning net decks, right? You can run you can play Ultimate Pit Fight and win a random cold foil. You can play Shapeshifter Sealed or Commoner, but the one that I really like the most, and I think it's very smart, is Blitz Pre-Constructed, where everyone plays with a pre-constructed Blitz deck. Like History Pack 1 or Outsiders are the two newest ones. I think that is brilliant because it makes it so someone can rock up to the event with no Flesh and Blood cards at all. Learn to play the game on the spot, have a nice experience, and then maybe they win something from it. And as an LGS, if you're an LGS, you can promote the event, I don't know, sell it for tickets for $15-20 or whatever, and then the person will get the deck and then also the entry, right? Like it's just kind of like a package thing. So I think that's very smart. And it also says that stores can use leftover OP kits materials to support on-demand and welcome event decks at their discretion. This includes leftover promos from previous Armory kits as well as leftover promos from Skirmish or pre-release. So like they're giving stores ways to support these events too, and I think that's really important, that it's not just lip service, that they're like, you should play Ultimate Pit Fight. They're like, hey, we're gonna give stores reasons to do this and prize support. Like twice a month they can do UPF events where people can like win prizes, which is really good. And that's basically all I'll say for this. Folks, if you want to read the article, it's called Casual Play and Armory Kit Guidance. and it came out April 21st, which is the day of this recording. And I highly recommend it if you want to, especially if you are a new store. It goes really deep into all the formats, and it talks about other casual formats you can play too, but they will not have Armory kit support. So, for example, you can make up your own format, or you can. It specifically mentions Team Sealed and Team Constructed, Team Blitz. But you won't have the Armory support. The Armory support is for those ones that we talked about already. But I also think the team events are very cool. I'm very, very high on the team events and the Blitz pre-constructed. I think those are both really, really good for new players or players.
Yeah.
I think they're great equalizers, especially the Blitz pre-constructed ones. So yeah,
and that goes on to like one of the points I made was about starter decks and onboarding products, because that is essentially like it could be an onboarding event, couldn't it? You know, you pre-con, you buy a pre-con, everyone's on the same level to a certain degree at least, and then you get random prizes. You don't even have to win. You're just playing with the deck that you've bought because you like the look of the character off the shelf or whatever.
Like what I would do, like if I was an LGS, and I don't know how financially feasible these numbers are, but say $20, you pick whatever Blitz deck, you get pack per win, so it still incentivizes the people to win, like it feels good, but then you give the Armory promo stuff that they have following the Armory guidelines, so the random winner, and then it also mentions the playmat, which is the you give it to like the community champion or people's champion one, and then that sounds like a fun event to grow your Flesh and Blood community. Everyone, gets stuff out of it. Maybe everyone will get a pack anyway, or whatever works for your LGS. But that sounds cool. And like me as a longtime Flesh and Blood player, like if my local was doing that and it was like a whole bunch of new players, I think the event sounds fun. Like, and I could like help teach the people how to play the game, and grow the community. So.
And it incentivizes people to not play their pet deck or net deck, should I say, that's winning them all these armories and what have you. It gives them more of an incentive to play like, oh yeah, I'm going to play Bolt in Lumina, so I've never done it before, or these other things, rather than just playing your hottest deck. It just incentivizes more experimentation.
Yeah, I mean,
as well.
all of the three formats that they mentioned that can be played as the 2 per month casual Armory are you can't really net deck. Well, you can sort of. So there's Ultimate Pit Fight, Commoner, and then Ultimate Pit Fight, Commoner, Shapeshifter, Sealed, and then the pre-constructed one. So you have Sealed and pre-constructed, which are the great equalizers. You don't even need any cards to play those; they are supplied. Commoner is just common cards and rares now, like commons and then rare heroes and weapons. And then UPF, which is UPF, like who cares? Like you could just play with one of the Blitz deck, the precons, like who cares? So I think this is really good and smart. I'm actually very surprised that they didn't like show this information more direct. Like you have to dig for it. Like I said, it's in the retailer news section, not in the article section. The way I found it is there's a couple links that you can follow at the bottom of the article that Az was going over, and then like there's like retailer news, and you have to click a couple links. But anyway.
So it is on there. You can find it. But so I was speaking about sort of that sort of style thing, like onboarding products and starter decks. You know, at the moment we've only got, for new players to get into the game, we've obviously got the Blitz decks, and obviously we've got the new sort of outsiders Blitz decks. They come in what is called a brick, so you can buy all of them like in a thing. Now I think that's also maybe like a soft hint as to where we might be going, because you could buy that as a thing and then play all of those decks out of the box essentially against each other or whatever you want to do, and it also goes into this pre-constructed thing as well. What they're mentioning on this article. So what do you think what sort of products do you think we need going forward? Because these decks don't even have rule books, do they? They don't even have rule books in them. They don't have anything in them, essentially.
Well, Joshua Scott told us last episode that they are currently working on a new player rulebook. That he didn't say where it's going to end up, but he did say
Yeah.
they're working on it, and I think that's great. Yeah.
But can you shove that in a blitz deck? And what does it look
You
like for a new
could.
player?
Because they did that. They did that with the original Flesh and Blood decks. The original Flesh and Blood welcome decks had little tiny rule books in them. They were like small and really hard to read. And it sounds like Joshua Scott realizes this and wants to make it a lot better and include more things. So yeah, having the rule books is good. I mean, you can also put those into larger products. We have Classic Battles as a thing. We haven't had a new one in a while, and I don't know if the current one is out of print or not. But a new Classic Battles product would be great. I like the Classic Battles product idea, even if the previous one may have stumbled a little bit. I think the idea is really good, and that's another thing we talked about with Brian Gottlieb. Actually, we talked about like some starter products. I think.
Definitely.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say they're definitely getting better as such and how they're presented, but I still think there could be more to it.
Yeah, like I think there could be, and they need to be careful about not pushing too many products, and then they get to the point where it's like Magic, or there's just like a million products. But I think they could go and make another product that is geared specifically towards social play, what I would call social play. And they could make like more like fun cards specific to this kind of stuff. So like Magic has commander decks, for example, where like the commander decks are made, and there's like specific cards in the commander decks that are meant to be goofy or just fun for those formats, and not for the hyper competitive players. And the fact that we know that LSS is onboarding like 20-something people to help develop casual cards or whatever. I can't remember exactly what they said, but it's like it's a separate. This is going to be a separate dev team than the main dev team.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that maybe hints at as to what's in store. I think
hopefully.
Yeah, I think like a commander style product or maybe a retooled Classic Battles or something like that. Classic Battles with a UPF vibe could work. Like they have a lot of options, but I think there's room for at least like one more product.
Yeah, I just keep thinking, if there's a product that someone can, buy out of the box and just sit down at the table and play, it then opens up a whole new world for that person. They're like, oh yeah, I love this hero. Did you know you can play 1v1? That's how the game was designed. Oh really? Okay, how do I do that then? I'll play against you, shall I? Yeah, all right. And what's the next step? Oh, the next step is an armory, etc., etc., etc. And then you got Flesh and Blood as a new player because they've built a multiplayer thing and just gone from there. Essentially,
I think it doesn't necessarily have to look like the Commander product, but I think having cool decks like the Commander product that Magic has, because the Commander products typically have like pretty cool decks. Like you can argue whether they're great now or not or whatever, but like I remember buying like the 4-color ones, and the 4-color ones were super cool. And if they did like cool decks like that, where you just buy the deck and you have like a cool deck that you can play, I'm down for that. Doesn't have to be an expensive deck. Doesn't have to have a Tunic and a E-Strike or whatever in it. But like with cool cards meant for that kind of stuff, not just reprints of like commons, right? Because that's what we have. That's what we have in the Blitz starters, which I think are great, by the way. They're great for playing. But they're just like common cards, commons and maybe a couple rares from whatever set. So
it's just that audience they have to try and capture that audience now, don't they? And then convert them into evergreen players, whether they're just casual 1v1 armory grinders that are actually registered on Gem, or people that actually go on to then attend PTIs and all this sort of stuff and actually are doing stuff. Because it can be addicting. Once you get good at something, once you can evaluate, if you've got that gamer mind, a lot of people can get to that, that armory. You're good enough to win an armory stage.
I have a good, just a random thought for this. So like you could also make cool new versions of heroes. They don't have to be brand new heroes. They could be, but you can make cool new versions of heroes that only really work in like a UPF scenario.
Yeah.
To help get people into the character, and then you can be like, oh, here you can also play this character in 1v1 and they're better. So for example, I was thinking Dorinthia, because they've already made a second Dorinthia. So
It's true.
you
Yeah.
could do a Dorinthia where it's like, when you attack one player, your attack will go again if you attack a different player as your next attack. Something like that, right? That it would not work in 1v1, but would only work in a multiplayer. Like, so if you attack one player, you get go again no matter what if you hit another player. That kind of thing. So yeah, I think they have a lot of options for that. And with all of this stuff, man, they're really like going for it for the casual play stuff. Like, it really feels like they're taking it to heart and going for it with the Armory and stuff. And the fact that they have a new dev team, I would not be surprised if we see some casual specific products in the pipeline.
I firmly believe that we probably will as well if they're going to focus on it. But what you said there about unique cards as well, because obviously we had unique cards in the Dorinthia deck, didn't we? And that's why people wanted it, because they get the glistening steel blade.
So
God.
The thing is, they wanted it for the competitive decks, but I think if they make the cards, like I said, specifically
for multiplayer,
for multiplayer or PvE,
nobody will care
whatever.
about those.
Yeah, specifically for non-competitive formats, then I think it would be super cool and would give people a reason to like buy them, but not spikes to buy them to, for their top level meta deck or whatever. And it also will make it so the cards aren't like worth a fortune, because you can only get it in the one product. So I have confidence in them to make something cool. Unique heroes would be cool. They have a lot of room. Like, to be honest, they haven't done that many different kinds of products yet. So like, they have a lot of space to do this kind of stuff. And I agree with what Az said. Like, having just a ready-made thing you can just buy and that it's cool. It has to be cool. I think that's the big thing. It has to be cool. It has to be something that someone buys and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome. I love this." Like, you need that response. And then they can continue on their journey if they're like, "Oh, I want to play competitively or 1v1 or whatever."
Yeah, and you can have that in the box as well. It's like a perfect marketing thing to do as well. You have like, do you want to play in, do you want to go to success, world championships? And they're like, oh, what's this? And then they start to read into it, and suddenly they're in their armories grinding with their character they've built from the singles they've bought from Jim from FAB TCG cards.
Yeah. And they have a lot of options. They can make a big old box set, like just like a board game kind of box set that has like 4 decks or whatever they want, and be like, here you go, here's the box set. You just buy the box set and you can have fun with friends. They could piecemeal it out like the commander decks and be like, oh, here's a series of our UPF decks, right, for the year or whatever. And like each of them has like the hero, like a new hero, and then it's got maybe like a cool lore spread or something that's like, this is the hero, this is where they're from. Like, this is the lore about it with nice art. Like, you could make this be really, really cool. Like, imagine, like, for the Outsiders heroes, so like Azalea, imagine. So there's like, here's a new Azalea that works best with multiplayer. And it's like Azalea, and it's like a rainbow foil or cold foil, a new Azalea. And she's got like a new bow or whatever. And there's like a big old lore page. It's like, here's Azalea's lore with a brand new art. And it's like, here's her backstory, here's the Blackjack's Tavern, here's all the stuff. And then I think that kind of stuff will get people stoked, like new players really excited, because they're like, oh, this character's awesome. And they have this cool story, and like, look at all the art. It looks awesome. Like, I
think also the precedent has been set with the heroes that have the same character but different abilities, right? Like Arachne and Arachne Solitary Confinement, Dorinthia and Quicksilver Prodigy. So yeah, that's a perfect way of doing it as well. As if you print a hero that's already exists in the world, in the lore, but then they can upgrade to the 1v1 version that's not designed for UPF. They're suddenly in a whole new world then, because they can then do their Bravo dominated crippling crush, and they're like, oh yeah. And Whereas, the Azalea from the UPF box might be able to attack the person or attack anyone because, she's got a bow, for instance, which would then work in PvE because you can attack any monster or whatever.
It's where they finally print her explosive arrow, right?
Exactly.
So
Yes,
hit multiple
please.
people. Yeah, that'd be sweet, right? Like you shoot an arrow at one player and then it hits the 2 players next to them. That would be rad, right? Including you, if you hit the wrong person. Yeah, that would be sweet.
And then you roll a dice for it, and then you draw a card from the event deck.
Yeah. And it deals 1 to 5 damage. Roll the dice. But I legit think like we're speculating, but I think this is like not like out of the question. Like I think
no, I don't think so.
I think there's stuff like this, and I know for sure that after I did a review of the what do you call them, the classic battles, James did tell me that they were very unhappy with how like the little lore book and that turned out, and they're unhappy with a lot of the stuff how that turned out. So I would like to see more like just like kind of cool stuff that just helps people want to get into the world and want to play.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think, Bill? What do you think we need to expand that side of the game? Or attract those sort of casual socials in?
I've been hanging my hat on PvE ever since it was even not even announced. Just whenever they said like, "Oh yeah, that might be a thing that we do." I think that especially if they do it right, and I've said this I think a couple times at this point. If they do PvE right and they make it like I don't even know if it has to be like the best possible iteration that it can be. It just needs to be like good enough that people want to play it more than once. I think that could at least be a pathway into like Flesh and Blood's commander. I think that has the possibility of being that sort of casual format that almost overtakes the main competitive nature of it. I know that the game at its core is very competitive, and I think that's one of the issues that I've seen people have just with UPF in general, where it's like these decks are designed to output a bunch of damage to a single person, and you kind of have to have that internal understanding, that deal making of like, well, I'm just going to spread it around. It's not optimal, but it's more fun. But if everybody's able to put a deck together that they like a hero that they're really aligned with, or just a style of deck that they prefer, and go all out and not have to make any concessions, and you're all working together to beat the enemy, I think that's sick. Like that is such a feel good thing, especially if there's like levels of difficulty for different campaigns or whatever that you're able to do. I think there's a ton of potential. Like I said, I've been saying it for a while, and I don't know if I'm hyping myself up too much for PvE, but I think just objectively, it has the potential to be like transformative for Flesh and Blood as a whole.
Exactly.
We'll note that we know it's not coming out this year, so we won't see it for at least another 8+ months. So I genuinely think the stuff that Az and I were talking about just now help some of the things that you mentioned. Because you said like, some people are like, oh, it's not optimal or whatever. But if they make cards that are optimal for multiplayer, right, then it incentivizes people to play those cards, right? And I was trying to think of an example of, so instead of like a 1 for, or a 2 for 6 or whatever, maybe it's a 2 for 3 at one person and 4 at another person, right? So it's technically more damage, 7 damage, but it's split across 2 players. So stuff like that. Not necessarily that, but stuff like that to give reasons to play that.
That would then translate into other, if they did board game style PvE products as well as board game style UPF products, all of those cards would be essentially expansion sets for each other, because you could just meld all of those cards together, all those decks together, like you would a board game, like Marvel Legendary is like a deck building game, for instance. You merge all those things together, and then you can just play. You can play the Pits campaign with the Dorinthia you got in the Solana set, and the Riptide you got in the Pit set, and just go at it. So it could be multi-transversal in that sense as well.
Yep.
If they did something like that. But yeah, you can tell we're loving the subject because we're just going in the weeds constantly.
It's a good subject, and I legitimately feel that like it's a very, very important subject because it is essentially, I don't want to get too proclamatic about it. I don't know if that's a word, but
It is now.
It's
Speculations.
it's the future of the game, right? Because like you're gonna cap on competitive players, and I don't know if we've hit the cap already, but you're gonna cap, and then you need the, like I said, I don't like using the word casual, but you need like the social players who just play at the kitchen table every week because they want to have fun with their buds, right? You know, like that's what most people who play card games are. Like that, I don't know the exact statistic, but I've heard like 90% plus of card game players are people who just play at the kitchen table, right? They just play with their friends, their social group, or at the local game store or whatever. And so it's really important to have these kind of discussions, and it's really good that LSS seems like they recognize this and they're like, oh, we need to like, you know, help people get into this, because like I think it's actually like not a good thing that some people think Flesh and Blood is only a competitive game. Like I legit think that is not a good thing. Like it's a good thing that it's a good competitive game, like, and it does the competition well, but it's not good that some people think it's only that, because that limits your growth significantly. So
and that and the frameworks that they have in place as well automatically can bring in people that are interested because it's character driven.
Yeah.
So there's a character for everyone. Like, you know, the story that you've told a few times about Robin saying, "Oh, is there a woman character?"
Yeah, she's
yes,
like,
there is.
She's like, is there a female character? And I'm like, here's Dorinthia. And she's like, cool, I'll play her. Like
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
And if there wasn't, she would have probably been like really disappointed, and probably still would have played with me anyway, because I was just like, please play with me. I need to learn this game. But she wouldn't have been like happy about it, and she wouldn't have found like a character that she likes. So like, I agree.
And that automatically puts you in the shoes of the character that you want to be as well, you know? So it's like when you choose a character on the fighting game or choose a character in Diablo or a class or whatever, you're automatically sort of invested in the character already because you like the way they look, or they like the weapon that they're carrying, or their moves, or their name, or whatever. You know, you invested straight away.
Agreed.
But if you don't do anything to keep those players, then that's your fault because you don't have the system to support it. Yeah, so it is very important.
Yeah, because like right now, like you like, oh, I love this character. She looks really cool. Say my favorite character, Uzuri. Someone's like, oh, I like Uzuri. I can maybe see myself in the character or whatever. I'm like, I like Uzuri. Yeah. She's cool. Rock up to your LGS and get like destroyed by someone who just has like a, you know, a pro tour winning deck list or something like that. And then they're like, well, that wasn't fun.
That wasn't fun.
Yeah, but
let's not do that again.
But like I can tell, like it's pretty obvious that LSS is thinking about that situation, right? With the Armory events that I mentioned earlier in that article, like the casual play Armory events help prevent that a little bit. And I think if they supplement that with the product types that we were talking about, will go a very, very long way to making it much more accessible and friendly to people who are new to it. And I think that audience, that audience who is really into that kind of stuff, are gonna be the more social players. Like I'm thinking of like D&D players, right? Who like really care about the character lore, the characters.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. The people that are and do care about their characters are the ones that are playing socially because they play for that reason. You know, so
yeah, it's like it's also just thinking about like, would you necessarily always invite somebody over to play Flesh and Blood if you had a long day at work, or you were really like, you know, you wanted to hang out with somebody, but you were tired and you didn't want to like think too much about how you were actually playing the game. You want to interact with the game, but not in a super cerebral way. And like, not to say that every time you play Flesh and Blood it is that way, but I think if if there's a more incentivized version of playing Flesh and Blood that isn't objectively optimal, I think that is going to be the really easy way to be like, oh, hey, do you want to just like come over, chill out, and we'll play some PvE? We'll play some Flesh and Blood, and it just kind of is what it is. It's like just play some fun games without thinking about it over some beers. Like that is the mark of a good social game as well. And I do think that they're working towards that. But also, I would probably lean to the side of Flesh and Blood currently doesn't avail itself that well to that specific mindset of like just playing for fun, because decks are pretty optimal, and if they're not optimal, then they just kind of feel bad to play. But if both decks are doing what they're supposed to do, then the games can be pretty close. But maybe I just want to play this turbo self-mill data doll deck. And I saw an interaction between two cards that isn't competitive, but I think it's cool. Having a landscape for that, I think, is going to be really important going forward.
Yeah, it's not like, Carol, do you want to come over to play the Olden Mirror? No. No, I don't. I've had a long day at work. Would you fancy an Olden Mirror?
No.
Yeah.
F off.
But like,
go away.
I can see that happening with what they have sort of now. So like, I can see that happening with like Ultimate Pit Fight. Once again, if they lean more into the fun cards, like the fun
even the
cards, where you can be like, oh, I just built a, weird, mechanologist group hug deck or something, and like, oh, we can just play with that. I made my Azalea explosive arrow, AoE deck, like
AoE deck.
Yeah, I use like rain of arrows and to do like 1 damage to all heroes or something, that kind of stuff. I think we'll see if they do this and if that's the direction that they go. But I think it could be very cool. And it feels like it. I mean, they're onboarding like 20-something people to design for like social play cards, like casual cards. I imagine a lot of that is going to go to big products like PvE, and maybe even like, I don't know, like UPF product or something. They seem to be pushing UPF. I will say this: they seem to be pushing UPF pretty hard. So like, they do. James White is going to be playing Ultimate Pit Fight at Pro Tour. Like, I can't think of a more like glaring like, hey, play Ultimate Pit Fight, than the creator literally playing Ultimate Pit Fight at the Pro Tour, right? Instead of like playing, the classic constructed format that is at the Pro Tour, he's playing UPF. So
that's where the optics are, isn't it? Right now. So even with the Professor's video and James White playing UPF in the same article, it seems like they're focusing in on that while they work on the PvE in the background, because that is the unique thing, isn't it, to the trading card game? Well, we've had, obviously, you've said before that we've had like World of Warcraft and stuff, but this could the PvE side of it could be the thing that really gets people in to play Flesh and Blood, pizza and beers, rather than the Olden Mirror match.
The PvE thing, it's interesting. It really depends on how they do it, because there have been PvE in multiple games, and to varying degrees of success. Some of them are really fun. Some of them are fun once and then not really fun again. So like, I don't know. We'll have to see how they do it. It feels like they want to do like a campaign kind of thing, which is like the best scenario in my opinion. But like, for example, a lot of people use, and I have them over there, World of Warcraft raid decks. The raid decks are fun to play like a couple times, period. Like, they're not something you play every week. It's like, we're not going to play the Onyxia raid deck every single week. You play the Onyxia raid deck like once, and then like maybe once again like 3 months later when you're bored. Like, that's what that was. So make it into like a, I don't want to say like a roguelite, but like kind of like make it in like
it needs like every time you play it needs to be different. There needs to be like at least like Planes Chase, where you have a plane or a location that gives you a set of rules that then you can then change that every time you play, or every time you go to the next mission or whatever, the plane or the location changes, so it makes it different every time. Couple that with the enemies that you're fighting and the cards that you're drawing from the monster deck or the Solana deck or whatever, there's loads of board game stuff that does it, but
Yeah, I can think of like a couple good examples that Flesh and Blood it would work with. So I think I mentioned before on the podcast, but Dice Throne has a campaign mode that is kind of like a roguelite with random encounters on like a path, like through a dungeon or through like an area. I'm not sure if the locales are randomly placed, but there are games that do have randomly placed locations, right?
Yeah.
Like there's board games that do that a lot. Like
Gotcha. Yeah.
the Betrayal at House on the Hill does that. I was trying to think of specific
Classic.
games where you have like
Yeah.
random rooms. So like it depends on like how deep they go, right? Like they could go deep and it could be like rad as hell if there's like
it's a completely different thing, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah. And then like the encounters are like, flesh and blood combat, but you're with your buddies and you're playing against, skeletons or whatever. Dregs. Maybe you're in the pits and you're fighting against the dregs and then like the thugs, like the different gangs.
Yeah, like dregs are just like there's loads of dregs, but they have rubbish HP. They're like they're glass essentially. You just cut through loads of them, which is why whereas aliens, the horde of arrows would come in and kill loads of them.
Exactly.
You can speculate about this all day, couldn't you? Really?
Yeah, I was like, the pits is perfect for it because I know a lot of lore about the pits, and they could do like the gangs, like different encounters could be like different gangs, and they all have different attributes, like the jawbreakers, and they all, like one of them uses explosives, and the other one uses like the other gang uses like they have extra dregs because some of them have dregs.
Yeah, or don't let the bloody blockheads get in close combat because they deal so much damage.
Yeah,
keep away from them, etc.
Yeah.
Will there be movement in there as well? Probably not. We're probably just going way into it.
No, my ideal situation, and this is, first of all, I think everyone should temper their expectations because we're getting into like crazy territory where they're like we're expecting like the
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness style hype, and it was absolute garbage.
Yeah, I thought it was fun, but that's a different thing. It wasn't boring for me at least. So that. Anyway, so like my ideal situation would be kind of like the Dice Throne one where you have like maybe a tile set and then you like shuffle the tile set and you have like random rooms that you're going through.
I love tile placement games.
And then like each room will have like an event where you fight different things based on what the tile is. So like maybe sometimes it's a loot. Maybe sometimes like, oh, here's a piece of legendary armor that one player can get. And it's like a unique piece only for the PvE, right? Like you can't put it in a CC deck or whatever. And like you're like gearing up and killing monsters and stuff. And then at the end it's like, oh, you've come to the the big boss at the end. It's I don't know, like an Aesir or something like really big and scary, but you have all this cool gear that you've gotten. That's my ideal situation where it's like this cool thing where it's like it's almost like a Diablo thing where you're like going through the dungeon, killing stuff, getting loot, and at the end it's like a big scary monster and it's like really hard or just challenging or there's some weird mechanics. And then it's like and then like but it's random. So like maybe like there's random bosses, so you shuffle up the bosses and you put a random boss or something. So it's like different every time you play. Or maybe they have different maybe they theme different releases for the regions. So it's like this is the pit set, right? And it has like the dregs and the blockheads. And this one's the Mysteria set. Maybe it has like, rogue ninjas who are trying to assassinate you or something. They have so much they could do with this to make it really cool. And I'm tempering my expectations to not be this. Because like if I expect this, then I'm going to be disappointed when it's not this. And it's just like the World of Warcraft deck, which is fine. But if it's that, it'll be fun a couple times, and then
it's like a Final Fantasy boss deck as well. You beat the boss once, and you're like, oh, okay, can't be asked now. We've done it. That's it. There's no variance. It's just the same boss deck every time. Like Face the Hydra, Magic's Face the Hydra thing that came out. Once you beat that, you're just like, all right, done.
Another way to do it that's really fun is Arkham Horror. I'm a huge fan of Arkham Horror LCG, the card game, and that also sometimes it has random location placement, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the scenario. But what it always has is random. We call it bad stuff. I think there's a technical term for it, but we just call it the bad stuff from a bad stuff deck. and each player
Ethos
draws
deck, isn't it? Is it the Ethos deck or something like
the
that?
Mythos deck.
Mythos, that's it.
Yeah, we just
Mythos
call it
deck,
bad
yeah.
stuff. We're just like, did you draw your bad stuff? So like you draw the bad stuff and then you do what the bad stuff is, and it makes multiple campaigns different because you have different bad things happening to you.
Exactly,
Because
yeah.
you have like a little deck. They could do that too, and it could be really like a lot of fun. I
And
love
the Mythos deck as well. You can change difficulty because they got markers on like really bad cards and like okay cards and stuff, so it's interchangeable as well, depending on how hard you want it to be.
Arkham has like a very good scale. Well, I don't want to say good, but they have a very wide scaling difficulty. Sometimes the difficulty isn't good because sometimes the difficulty is putting in auto lose tokens into your bag, and the auto lose tokens are not exactly fun. They're just like,
oh jeez.
I planned everything perfectly, set to win, auto lose token. I'm like, even if it's a -8, I still win. Auto lose token. Guess we die. Guess we die.
Now that's the type of variance that we don't want to see.
Arkham Horror gets a pass from me just because it's supposed to be like this horrible situation that's like against all odds kind of thing, where like even if you like are a giant nerd like me and try to be like make the most optimal thing and do the stuff, you still have a chance to lose.
But again, that's great variance. But then that's told in a storytelling environment.
Yeah, it's acceptable because of that. That's the only reason it's acceptable is because we're like into the story and into like the narrative. Whereas if it was like a competitive thing like Hearthstone, if you just draw like a card that's just like you die, that's not fun. Like
no.
Yeah.
It's just like you're on the cusp of going through like the Arkham University and you open this door thinking it's going to be the next part of the quest, and suddenly you're sucked into a dark hole and you're lost in time and space, and it's just like so much carnage.
Yeah. And like I think some of it's too like you're fighting like Yogg Sothoth, the elder god, and you're like, okay, I have like all of these items set up. I've done all these things. I have like a +12 to my roll. I can't lose. And the Yogg Sothoth is just like, you die.
You die.
Like he's like, I'm bigger than a continent. You die. Like
you die. Yeah.
Yeah. So it works with that, but it's all within context, Yeah. And even then, sometimes it's not fun. Like sometimes, like, no.
Well, we are well and truly in the Arsenal step right now. But
it all relates.
Let us know.
It all relates.
It is, yeah. It all relates. It all relates. It's all good fun. But as a viewer, as a person who's made it all the way to the end, what do you want to see with regards to how LSS sort of decides to sort of take on and expand the social and casual side of the game? What would you like to see? What sort of implementations do you want to make?
That I think it'd be more interesting to talk about that excluding PvE for now, because like I said, we got like 8 months at least before we start seeing anything. So like, what could they do now in the next 8 months? I think that's more interesting because we need more players to play now. Like
no, exactly.
Not next year. Like I want more people to play Flesh and Blood like right now. And pray and hope that the PvE is like really good, which is
we're all hoping for it.
I have hope. Yeah,
it's one of the the fact that it's taking so long gives me a lot of hope. Actually, like it makes me feel that they're like, we gotta nail this and it has to be incredible, and they're not just like whatever, we'll just do what Warcraft did, print it. Like it really feels that they hopefully are taking their time.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a good sign that they said it's going to be this year, and actually, no, it's not. It's going to be next year because it's not ready as such. That's a good sign, I think. We'd rather have that happen rather than just them just rush out a boss deck or something,
Yeah, they've always been pretty vague. James said, like, I think he said last year, he said 2023 at the earliest, and it turns out that like it's not even this year. So
he said we're aiming for 2023. I think was the actual exact wording, and you can aim for stuff, but sometimes you miss. So
sometimes you miss, sometimes you just get a buzzsaw trap. Anyway,
You attack for 5. Good day, sir.
Good day, sir.
I said good day.
Oh, what is that from? Good day, sir.
It's from Willy Wonka, the original. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "Good day, sir," and he tries to
Good
say
day,
something.
sir.
I said good day.
Oh my god, that's brilliant.
Is it raining? Is it snowing?
Oh,
when they're in the boat.
Yeah.
There's no earthly way of knowing.
Just like LSD trip, man. It's like bad trip.
Which direction we are going?
Oh, it's a wild movie.
Oh boy,
it's wild. Anyway, yeah, let us know in the comments below as to what you want to see from the social and casual development of the game. Obviously, it's growing, and we've got some wild speculations, but maybe next year some of them might have come true to a certain degree. We will see. But yeah, anything in the arse? Null.
Bill, do you got anything packing? Packing anything?
Not that I haven't already talked about. I mean, I'm once again looking forward to Skirmish.
Ooh, yeah.
Looking forward to trying out. I haven't fully decided if I'm gonna bring Prism and just try to prey on the wizards, but I probably will.
Yeah,
I got my decks all ready to go. For the audio listeners, I'm holding up one of the professor's deck boxes.
Oh, I am as well. But you can't see it.
It's like invisible stealth.
You sent me the invisible one.
It's got stealth. So I am also looking forward to playing more Flesh and Blood. Oh, I have quickly. I won't go into it too deeply. I had some extra time while I've been like waiting for videos to export because I've been editing a lot, and so I finished Resident Evil 4 Remake. It is very, very, very good. And then it inspired me to go replay the Resident Evil 2 Remake and the Resident Evil 3 Remake. And I've been having a ton of fun replaying those. They are fantastic. I'm a pretty big fan of Resident Evil. So
yeah.
And then I've on top of that, I started watching some Resident Evil YouTubers and watching their content. Sphere Hunter, she does good stuff. And so I've been watching her like retrospective of all the old games and stuff. So that's what I've been doing while I wait for videos to export. Is been watching Resident Evil and playing Resident Evil. So, yeah.
Is Resident Evil 4 like still the same then? Is it?
It's pretty close.
Same.
It's pretty close. Yeah. It's much more polished. Graphics obviously look incredible. It's more realistic. It doesn't have the enemies still drop loot and stuff like they do in original RE4. The merchants there, every time he shows up, it reminds me of you, Az, because he's got like this British accent.
Welcome.
What you buying?
What are you selling?
I'll buy it at a high price.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
So it's a very good game. I highly
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
highly recommend it.
I want a wild one. 2 a.m. nearly. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, that checks out.
Very, very good. I would say as good as the RE2 remake, maybe better. Different. It's more actiony, like RE4, right? But still very good.
Nice.
Yeah, I like Resident
Fantastic.
Evil.
It's definitely a good franchise. I absolutely used to love it when I was a kid. The old school ones. And when they transitioned into RE4, I was like, wow, this is so sick. But I haven't actually played any of the remakes, so maybe I should.
They have been putting them up for sale every now and then, so sometimes you can get them for like super cheap. Like I think at one point you can get the RE2 remake for like $5 or something.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
If you can just wait for a sale, you can probably pick both of the 2 and 3 up for like less than like $20. I recommend them.
It's just we'll wrap it up in a sec, but this is just the sheer terror of Nemesis like coming through the window, and again random encounters, variants. You just having a whale of a time. Jill walking around with a shotgun, suddenly, and the fucking Nemesis comes running out of his bazooka.
Stars.
Yeah, You just
Yeah.
absolutely shit it. It's ridiculous.
So I have heard from people. I've never played the original RE3. I have heard from people who played the original RE3 that the remake is slightly disappointing.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
But I never played the original, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So maybe if you don't compare it to the original, I think it's fun. Like the Nemesis is still there. He doesn't stalk you as much as Mr. X does in RE2 remake. RE2 remake, Mr. X is just like he's at some points he's just there. Like
he's just there. Well, that's what I mean. That's what I loved about the old. I think the old ones as well were just more janky because they were fixed camera angles. So it was almost like you didn't have the dexterity to be able to escape him running at you. Like you didn't have the same sort of feel. But yeah, it's just traumatizing as a kid. I used to think Nemesis was chasing me.
See, the first RE game I won't go too much into this. Is 4. 4 was the first one. Is my introduction because we had a GameCube, and I never had PlayStations. I was a Nintendo kid, so I never had a chance to play the other Resident Evils. And so when RE4 came out on GameCube, we got that, and that was my first introduction, and I just like absolutely loved it. Leon is like one of my favorite characters. I even bought a coat that looked like Leon's coat from RE4, you know, like the leather thing with the thing. Like, yeah, I even had like Leon hair,
epic.
Not specifically from Leon. It was more because I had just had emo hair, but it looked kind of like Leon's hair. So
that's brilliant.
I'm a big fan of RE Resident Evil series.
I think we all. Well, I've definitely bought a coat that looks like Squall's coat from Final Fantasy VIII.
It's close. It's actually close to the Leon coat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like leather with like a fur collar thing. Yeah, like a right idiot wearing that back in the day.
I had mine up until college. Actually, it was black. It was black and had like the white. Yeah, like the white like fur lining, and I wore it like a decent amount. It was pretty heavy, but
just used to walk around like thinking you were like part of the game, like stupid.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Anyway, I have been Az from Go Again Gaming. You've been listening to the Living Legends podcast. I've been your host for today. You can find me on Go Again Gaming on YouTube and Go Again Gaming AZ on Twitter. And yeah, just dropped the new episode of Ultimate Pit Night, the first one of many. So go and check that out on YouTube when you can. A lot of time and effort went into it. I'll throw it over to Kel.
Oh, hello. I'm Kel, also known as Red Zone Rogue. And you can find me everywhere at Red Zone Rogue, mostly on Twitter. If you try to message me on Instagram, this has happened a few times. I don't check it, and then I check it, and it's like message was sent like a month ago, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll respond now, but like I barely check Instagram. So yeah, thanks for watching. How about Bill?
Nice.
How about Bill?
Hi. I'm Bill from the Spike Feeders. You can find me on Twitter at BillTSF. You can also find me on YouTube at Spike Feeders FAB. We do live edited gameplay content, so if that's something that interests you, you should definitely check it out. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, cheers. It's been a good one. Until next time, we're going to do it all over again. And thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Peace.
Excellent.
Absolute ramble. Absolute ramble.